Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Red Jacks on podcast with me, Charlie.
Me, Rick.
Me, Fraser.
And me, Serhan. Oh, yeah.
And I'm guessing as you guys listening at home will probably have already clicked on the episode, you'll know what this one is about, but the guys don't just yet. And we had some ifs and buts of if we were actually going to manage to do it, because there's a lot more to tell than I realized. So here we go. Guys, today we are talking about Toy Story.
Oh!
Now, when I tell you, I started obviously with Toy Story 1, and I didn't realize how much it took to get Toy Story 1 off the ground to begin with. So without going into this incredible journey that these animators and whatever went on, I will just give you this little bit, okay? I hear a buzzing. It's slowed down, it's gone quiet, but it's still kind of there. There it is, it's gone. Oh. Yep, that's gone.
It's gone. Is your house haunted, Serhan?
Scotland is not tech friendly, apparently.
You can see he's so done. He's so done with these tech issues.
Mate, every week there's a new challenge with this podcast to me. It's how the internet. Oh no, now it's the microphone. Now it's the headphones. Now it's the USB jack. I'm like, God damn it! I want to hear about. I was going to say Toys R Us. I want to hear about Toy Story.
And we want to hear what you have to say about it. And that's, you know, we got to make sure you're coming through nice and clear.
Be part of this, but technology says no.
Oh, what we heard then was all broken up as well. It was quite ironic. Oh,
I mean, maybe try it off your phone, babe. Try it off your phone, because it normally works fine on the phone, right?
My whole existence on this podcast is the goddamn phone. All right, fine.
Where do I carry on from? And we're back. So let's Toy Story, guys. Woo, Toy Story. Woo. Okay, so here's a little something. Before Toy Story, John Lasseter, future director of Toy Story 1 and 2, worked as a director and chief creative officer with a company called Pixar to create a few animated shorts. But before it was called Pixar, and before Disney showed interest in 1989, Pixar was called Graphics Group and was owned by George Lucas, producer of Star Wars.
Oh,
Absolutely insane. Now, a lot of stuff happened, but in the retrospect of things, it eventually got bought out. So do you know who the executive producer is of Toy Story 1 because of the funding that was put into Pixar?
no.
No, who is
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
Apple.
What?
Steve Jobs of Apple basically owned Pixar. He was the main source of income. He nearly dropped it several times because he was like, this thing isn't making money. They were actually selling the computers that they were animating on. And like John Lasseter and a load of other animators were all using the computers to animate stuff because they wanted to like animate. And it was just like this. Steve Jobs was funding them. Yeah, so he's actually credited in Toy Story as the executive producer. So that's your first little like toe in the water, but there is more to come. So
Wow,
we're going to be earning points, guys. Let me get my pen out.
nice.
Right, maybe I'll get a clean sheet of paper and pop it over here. So this is for your first point, guys. Who is going to storm in the lead? What is Luxo Jr.?
Luxo Jr.
Is the little lamp.
Correct. 1 point for Serhan.
Huh.
Yeah, boy.
Nice.
So Luxo Jr. in 1986 was Pixar's first short film about two desk lamps, a father and son playing with a ball. Had a 2-minute runtime. Took 4 months to complete in time for the 1986 SIGGRAPH, the SIGGRAPH, which is like a computer graphics conference attended by thousands of professionals across the world. Edward Catmull and Lasseter, two massive like heroes in this story. Again, I might do a whole one on Pixar, guys, because it was fucking awesome reading about it. They worked non-stop on it and even slept in the office just so they could go to sleep, wake up and just crack on again. And before the film even finished, bearing in mind this is like an animation thing where like 10-minute, 20-minute shorts were being played. This thing was 2 minutes. And before it even finished, they got a standing ovation because it blew everyone's fucking minds because no one has actually liked it. It's considered the biggest turning point of animation history because it was the first time CGI movies were like actually considered animation and could actually tell a story. So there's your go on.
Sorry, did you say this was 1986 when they premiered this 2-minute short?
1986 was when Luxo
Crazy.
Jr. first.
I bet
I
that was
wasn't
actually
even
so
born.
difficult.
It was crazy. Then they went on to make Tin Toy in 1988, which was the little Tin Man getting chased by that fucking terrifying baby. I don't know if you ever saw
Can't
it.
remember that one.
No, I don't remember that.
That was the first idea of toys that they had. And there's one moment where he runs under a bed and there's a load of toys shaking because they're all scared of this baby. And that essentially is what got Disney to go, hey, do you guys want to make a feature film? Skip a few years, 1995, Toy Story drops. Now,
Yeah.
I know.
Is that how many years that it took to fully animate Toy Story? Or
I believe they started in 1989, like drawing up concepts and stuff, and then it took, I think, over a year and a half to animate the entire thing.
Okay.
But it's all estimated because there wasn't like hard documentation of when they started and stuff, but it took a lot of effort. And
so wait, okay. I'm just trying to think, because if it took 4 months for them to make a 2-minute short, then they must have had a lot more manpower to do like an entire hour-and-a-half film in a year.
Disney has nothing short of manpower and money. So even back then, so they definitely put in what they could to get it off the ground. So here is a nice little tidbit for you. So it was directed by John Lasseter, and it was written by Alex Sokolow, Joel Cohen, Andrew Stanton, and its main writer was Joss Whedon.
Oh,
it was one of his first and biggest projects, and it literally skyrocketed. It was such a success. It got awards, absolutely loads of awards for writing and stuff. So like, just definitely would have escalated his career. Executively produced by Steve Jobs and Edwin Catmull, who was the other guy who was working tirelessly on the 2-minute Luxo Jr. Music by Randy Newman. And we're going to play a game here, guys, where every time we talk about a different Toy Story film, you have to guess how much it made. So the budget was 30 million in 1995. How much do you think they got back from it? The closest guess gets a point.
120 million.
You're saying 120?
260.
260.
180.
180.
Well, with a 30 million budget, their box office return was 394.4 million. So Rikesh gets the point with 260. Wow. The closest one.
Fucking Jesus.
GG claps, Rick. GG claps.
In 1995, good grief, that is like an unlimited amount of money.
Massive return. Like a 10 times return. 100% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It was also selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. For animation 100%. At the time,
wow,
nothing, not in games, not in cinema, nothing was coming out as smooth as that.
Nothing, yeah.
And it still kind of holds up.
Yeah, it's still believable for what it is. I think there's that texture layer that's kind of missing from modern CGI. It gives you that.
The 4K. We're just going to assume you said something along those lines before you cut out.
Oh, he's fully
4K 60 FPS.
Midpoint.
Oh, poor Serhan. I feel so bad for him. You cut out.
Am I back?
You're back now, mate. Yeah.
I'm back.
Did you hear us when you're cut out, or is it just like you're stuck in limbo?
He's stuck in limbo again.
Oh, there you go.
Oh. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll direct to you guys first and Serhan can answer last. This isn't for points, but what's your like fondest and most key memories when Toy Story kind of entered your life? Toy Story 1.
Key memories.
Key memories. I have a story about this.
Go for it.
Fire away.
Toy Story 1 was the first film that they ever took me to see in the cinema. So this was
Good
the
first film.
first film, my first proper film in the cinema, and this is my memory of it. Apart from watching it and loving it and enjoying it, even though I think I have got more memories watching it at home because I had it on VHS, I think there was a couple behind me or a few rows back making out and being a bit loud and stuff. And I remember as a child turning around and then giving them the finger and then sitting back down to watch the film.
Where did you learn that, huh? I wonder.
School, man. It was always going to be school, but it was, especially at that age, like 4, 5, 6, to give the finger was like deadly. That was a deadly cut.
If you saw it in the cinema, you were born in 92 and it came out in 95. So it might have aired maybe in 96 in the UK.
I was born 91. I was born 91.
Okay, but like towards it. Okay, fine. 91, but November, baby. It's barely
Like
91.
Yeah. I am end of the year. So yeah, I must have been about
4. At 4
about 3 to 4. 3 to 4. Probably turning 4. But anyway, yeah, that was my memory. It was the first film I ever saw in the cinema. I think
First
my
time
dad
you
and my
felt
sister,
rage.
it was the
fucking
first,
rightly so.
but that's what I'm saying. It's a movie moment where you know what you are, and I was like, I am trying to listen. There are toys moving.
You know what's funny as well?
Me for the rest of my life.
Usually when you go to a film like that and there are kids around, you're like, oh no, kids are going to be making noise and not sitting still. And then there's Serhan, is like, oh, these adults, they just won't sit still.
But like, if you're not here with a child, to pay attention, go outside, go somewhere, go to the back freaking row, right? But this film, like I'm sure for you guys, like it didn't do the opposite of freaking me out. I didn't go home and be like, oh my God, my toys are alive. They're going to come get me. It was more like, if I had a favorite, I would get the tissue box, take one tissue out, lie the toy on the tissue box, and then put the tissue on top like a bed. And then be like, if I'm going to bed, my favorite toy goes to bed. Because I'm like, I'm going to start to respect my toys.
Yeah.
That's one of the messages, isn't it, really?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely tried to catch him in the act of moving about a few times for sure.
100%.
Like quickly opening my door, like, I thought I had you there.
It was one of those. Obviously, as a kid, when you get the idea in your head, like it will obviously stick around, and it can be either scary or like exciting. So you're kind of like, wait, if my toys are alive and I'm asleep, what are they going to do to me?
Clear enough. Everyone kind of come out with it positive. I'm sure there is. I've just never interacted with anyone that went, that film freaked me out, which is understandable, but I've not heard it.
No, yeah, it's such a lovable. They're all lovable characters, so like you kind of get and they're all like passionately dedicated to loving their kid. So it's kind of like, okay, as long as they're, they love me, it's fine. I love them too. Please don't leave. Please don't hurt me. Such a quotable line. You are
I think
strange.
That's the inspiration sad, right there. That's the inspiration right there for an advert.
Actually, talking about quotes, that actually moves us on. Nice segue. Sorry, Rick, actually, I didn't ask you. Is there any fond and particular memories you had of Toy Story growing up?
Stole it. He stole the toys.
He stole the cinema.
Steal somehow. Toys eventually. I think I don't remember watching the first film, like when it first came out. Well, I must have been so young. I think we might have had it on like Laserdisc or DVD or something, or VHS. But I remember like after watching the first few films, like I used to keep all my toys together. If I had like a bunch of Power Ranger toys, I would keep all the Power Rangers together because I thought, they're friends.
Segregation.
So when they're playing, they're gonna play together because they're Power Rangers. I remember I used to like sort my toys like that, like depending on the group. So like they would all play in their own time when I'm sleeping or I'm at school or something. But yeah, I had the same kind of thing, like, look after your toys and your toys are gonna look after you. Like that film did kind of introduce a whole new imagination kind of aspect that I never really had before. But I remember grouping all my toys up together like that when I was younger. Yeah.
I think, I think it's strange because I think like it actually did change the way you played with your toys as a kid.
Yeah.
And it's very strange to think that a film could do that. But when I was watching these documentaries on it and that, they were saying like there were no bad ideas, because usually when you're writing a film about a specific subject or something, you have experts that you contact. everyone is a fucking expert on toys because we all grew up and we all had a toy of some sort, even if it was like a dreidel or something. You know, if you didn't have a lot of money or whatever, you still had a toy that you know, put a personality to and stuff. And like, yeah, it's just so interesting to watch these writers and stuff being like, the possibilities are endless. That, you know, that's why it took so long to think of a storyline, because it was like, we could do anything. It's mad. But moving on from Serhan's "You are a toy" quote, to infinity and beyond is obviously the biggest line from the entire Toy Story franchise. And it has been used not only in merchandise relating to Toy Story, but it's also been used by philosophers and mathematical theorists as well. In 2008,
like, seriously.
in 2008, during the STS-124, not sure what that means, don't ask me, astronauts took an action figure of Buzz Lightyear into space on a space shuttle called Discovery, as part of an educational experience for students while saying the catchphrase. And it was to see how zero gravity worked with inanimate objects. But they said it live.
Nice.
They quoted it nice and live.
That's awesome.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, apparently it's in Beyonce's Single Ladies. She says to infinity beyond. It has been quoted stupid amount of times. I had to skip over a lot of them because I was like, you don't need to know all these things. Like a father and son stuck in the ocean. They literally repeated it for hours while treading water until someone found them. So many cases where to infinity and beyond was the headline. Like crazy. For points, guys, for points. What non-Toy Story Pixar character also shouted to infinity and beyond?
Non-Pixar.
No. Non-Toy Story Pixar.
Okay.
So it's a Pixar character, but not from Toy Story, shouted to infinity and beyond. And I will give you a little hint. It's in a blooper reel of a Pixar movie.
Oh, hold on.
Those are fun.
No. No, it's there. It's somewhere there.
I want to say Up.
It's not Up.
I want to say like film. It's in Monsters Inc. or something.
It's not in Monsters Inc. It's earlier.
Hold on.
Earlier.
It's earlier. Very earlier. In fact, super close to Toy Story 1 and 2. So close, it's in between them. Serhan, I see you.
It's there. It's there. I could, because there's only.
You're gonna hate me when I say it. It's Flick from Bug's Life.
Oh, Bug's Life.
Yes!
He says to infinity beyond when he jumps with a dandelion. Yeah. So no points.
Because I remember him looking like sheepish about it afterwards. Like there's a finite amount of films with bloopers in the credits, and I love that. And I loved A Bug's Life. Yes, yeah, you're right. No points, but yeah, it was.
I love Bug's Life. What a fucking
great film. Yeah, and I didn't know that actually came out between Toy Story 1 and 2. It was like a little project they kind of worked on to get better for Toy Story 2, and it actually turned out incredible. So
yeah, really good.
There's an original concept for Toy Story 1 that I felt was kind of worth mentioning, and see if you guys pick up on the Toy Story 3 nods here. So Tin Toy from the 1988 short was supposed to meet a ventriloquist doll in the back of a dump truck after being lost by his kid at a rest stop on a family vacation. Instantly, you've already got several things to Toy Story 3. They become friends and end up in Toy Heaven, which is a kid's play school. That was the very first original draft for Toy Story. And it is essentially like several moments that they ended up putting in Toy Story 3, which is really cool. But yeah, the scripts changed a lot and they ended up with Toy Story 1.
I think Toy Heaven is so cool. The perspective of a Toy Heaven. How would a toy interpret heaven of always being played with? And it would be a play group or a nursery or school. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I think they grew it a good amount with Toy Story to actually make it it's not just any kid. It's when you have that kid. When you have that kid that loves you, that's what being a toy is all about. And I don't know, there's something like I think they had Toy Story 3 really kind of lay it out as it's not as much as, you know, it's not that love that you want. Like having all these random kids, like, yeah, you get to play, but they don't remember you, you know, and it's a lot more sentimental when you've got a kid of your own.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So the animation was revolutionary. The buddy movie style was written to perfection as a first buddy animated movie for Disney ever, Randy Newman's soundtrack and the casting of Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and the rest of the gang was an absolute rocket combo for the start of Disney and Pixar's future together. Now, did you know that it wasn't Disney Pixar? It was Pixar and Disney, two separate companies working together to create these films. And it wasn't until a lot later in 2006 that they actually bought Pixar. Disney bought Pixar. Does anyone want to take a stab at how much? I will give it to the closest person. Bearing in mind, they basically already owned it. They basically already owned it.
A pat on the back.
You think a pat on the back? Okay.
Pat on the head.
Oh, that's very. Oh, that's harsh. Because that's very close to the back. But
I'm gonna say 700 mil in 2006. 700 mil.
700 mil. So, how what are you saying, mate?
As soon as for grabs, this gets very serious.
Yeah. I know. I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'm gonna say 800. 800.
Right. So we had 800 mil. Rick.
700.
I'm gonna go lower. I'd say 500.
Well, I guess then Serhan is the winner because it was 7.4 billion that they bought it for in 2006.
7 billion.
$7.4 billion they paid just to make it Disney Pixar. They knew what they had and they didn't fuck about.
I didn't know the word billion existed in 2006. I thought billion kicked off in like 2010s onwards.
That would have
been enough. 7 of them.
$1 for every single person on the fucking planet in 2006. 7.5.
I don't think we was up to 7 billion people.
Yeah, probably not actually. Yeah.
I think it goes to show how much we really know about business in that context and money. Like, how much does this cost? I don't know, a tenner.
Disney have just always had money. Why have Disney always had this amount of money?
Yeah.
Well,
I guess
apparently they done a bit of a stock hack to pay it. So they put I think they put up the stocks by 2.4 for Pixar or for Disney or whatever it was. I couldn't quite understand it. I don't know what stock market shit. But they put it to like 2.4, and basically the return was so high they could just afford to pay out 7.4 billion. Oh, and Pixar were like, yeah, all right, I'll take that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's so weird. Like, where does that money go when you pay it to a company but then absorb them? Because I guess they didn't lay off people. They probably kept.
Good question.
They would have kept the CEO of Pixar, but probably given him a different title. Maybe it went to him.
A big chunk of it would go to the CEO, I would imagine, and a lot of it probably goes into whoever you pay to get the rights, to get the manpower, to get all that paperwork done. Like, I think you're paying a lot of people to do the politics to transition from, legally speaking, from this company to
7.4 billion. That's a lot of money to just. Like, you could pay all the lawyers in the world. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah, but it's like what Rikesh said, or was it Fraser? Like, after you own that company to a certain extent, whatever you're technically not making a purchase, you're making an investment, because that money does come back to you in some form. Because you now own it. If I pay you £10, but I own you, I own that £10 as well. Like,
yeah, do you know what? That is actually pretty much spot on, isn't it? Like, yeah, you're putting the money back into a company you're about to buy. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I'm kind of confused why they did it. Like, it was working for Toy Story 1 and 2 and Bug's Life. I don't really know why they were like, no, we needed to make it our own. Maybe they were a bit worried about Pixar working for other companies.
Yeah, probably.
No, but I think there was a stage I remember hearing when they were separate, that Pixar and Disney films did go in a bit of competition. Sort of how like DreamWorks that do it now? Like, there was a little bit of a, people were either on Disney side or Pixar side. And if you want their stamp to kind of do it rather than collaborate, own it. Or maybe they just didn't want competition, conglomerates and all that. They want to absorb whatever's around them.
Yeah, or maybe they imagined a world where Pixar and DreamWorks got together to take them on, and they were like...
Yeah, maybe Disney were planning like the first purchase of Pixar, and then they were going to go on to buy DreamWorks and then buy near enough everything else until they just owned everything. And then everything was a fucking Disney product.
Well, it's working.
Yeah, seems.
Yeah, well, Disney have got the fucking money, so
not so much actually. Like, that was something I learned while looking up all this Pixar stuff. Is that lately Disney Pixar is really struggling. Their last couple of films have been absolute flops, and for another time on a Pixar podcast. But let's move on. With the absolute success of Toy Story 1, 4 years later, after a lot of hard work, we got Toy Story 2. Now, what is your first thoughts when somebody mentions Toy Story 2? Because a lot of people don't like it, but then there is a mass love for it as well.
I like it, but it's not memorable, I don't think.
Yeah, I remember 1 and 3, but I can't remember 2. I know I watched it. Could you do a little reminder?
2 when they meet Al. And Al takes Woody because he wants to join the
yard sale.
Yes. I remember now.
2.
I love number 2.
Dude, 2 was great. I mean, like the prospector character was like so surprising.
Yeah, that's right.
He was like the fat jolly guy stuck in his box. So, okay, yeah, cool. It's a collectible toy, and then he turns out to be the fucking dickhead at the end of the movie. You're like, wait, what are you doing out of your box?
At the airport with Jesse and the horse and getting him. That was an awesome film.
I mean, let me just remind you how it started as well. I actually have some synopses here. And remember, it starts with the game of Buzz in space fighting all the thingies, and he's trying to get to Zurg.
Awesome.
That entire sequence, and then he dies, and you're like, oh my god, and it says game over, and it's Rex playing on the game. Absolutely incredible. So Woody is stolen from his home by a toy dealer, Al McWigan. Did not know that was his last name. Leaving Buzz Lightyear and the rest of the gang to try and rescue him. But when Woody discovers that he's actually a valuable collectible from a once popular television show called Woody's Roundup, and is reunited with his horse Bullseye, Jessie the yodeling cowgirl, and his faithful sidekick Stinky Pete, the prospector, he doesn't want to leave. And it has the airport scene, like the whole airport thing. It had so much in it, like just them traveling across roads and stuff, which was awesome.
The best scene I love in that movie that always sticks in my mind, I think my family loved it, is when when they first gets Woody back to the office, and that, I don't know what he's called, like the craftsman guy comes in, the restorer, and he restores Woody in a narrative sense, not just aesthetically. When he paints over Andy's name, it really kind of sets a tone of like, Woody could move on. Like the potential for him to move on is very close to there. It really sticks to my mind. I love that scene, but there is so many good scenes in that film alone.
It's you saying that gave me goosebumps, mate. Like that scene where he goes over that just moment where he goes over his name.
Yeah.
And the little music spike, it's like, oh no.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Hey everyone. We're just taking a moment here to let you know some more details about the podcast and the direction we're going.
We wanted to let you know that we now have a Gmail account where we would love to hear from you, connect to you, and get to know you all just a little bit better. So if you have any questions or comments that you might have, please don't hesitate and get in contact with us at rjopoddy@gmail.com. That's rjopoddy@gmail.com.
That's right, Rikesh. Another way to get closer to the poddy is our amazing but highly under-advertised Instagram page, where you can find a collection of our funny and silly ads with visuals for your entertainment, as well as updates on the poddy through our Instagram story, and where naturally you can also message us there as well. Find us at RedJacksOnPodcast on Instagram, and we hope you enjoy.
Lastly, we are having plans of developing the podcast, extending outside of our hobbies and getting closer to our own individual passions. For me, being a trained therapist, my passion as well as profession is to help people, connect to people, and share any tools and techniques that may be helpful to yourselves. And so, to bring the podcast and therapy world that little bit closer, I'm planning on creating an additional Agony Uncle style podcast to the Red Jackson family, where you can send us any mild to moderate issues and challenges you or someone you know may need any advice or guidance on, where myself, as well as the boys and any special guests, can help and advise you and delve deeper into the therapy world. So please message us on RJOPoddy@gmail.com as mentioned above, and let's begin. If, however, you find yourself or someone you know in need of more specific, dedicated one-to-one long-term help, then please contact me directly at Serhan Avci therapy@gmail.com. That is SERHAN for November, AVCI therapy@gmail.com. or find me on the counselling director under Serhan Avci as mentioned. I hope to help, I hope to guide, and I hope to empower you all.
Please find all the relevant details in the description below. I hope you enjoyed and possibly found a new way to get involved and for all of us to connect further. And now we've taken enough of your time. Back to this amazing episode of Red Jackson.
I do want to speak actually about one moment in Toy Story 2 because Jade brought this up to me and then I Googled it and I ended up on another rabbit hole search. So I'll kind of narrow it down again. But the "she loved me" moment with Jessie. Now, do you guys remember that? When there's a whole, when somebody loved me.
I think so, yeah.
No moral will get
goosebumps.
Yeah, so that was the first time that Pixar had actually angled a really dramatically emotional tragedy towards just little girls and women. It was no longer aimed at little boys, which the whole of Toy Story 1 and Bug's Life kind of was. This is the first time they were like, actually, let's give the little girls and the women out there something to cry about. And it fucking worked because they have actually replicated that moment in every Pixar movie since. They have had a tragedy of some sort happen to one character. So it's like a really emotional depth. And yeah, apparently they've copy and pasted that in a lot of different things, which is why now Pixar just has this high caliber because it's like, yeah, it's funny and it's silly, but it hits deep. You, you know, it will get you. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of heart. There's a lot of heart.
So yeah, that was actually a really big moment, not just for Jade because she really loved Jessie, but for a lot of women out there and for Pixar as well, it did really well.
No, I'm glad.
I did like Jessie. Yeah. She was a good character.
Great character.
Such a good character.
Yeah. One thing that sticks out for me is like the brief inclusion of Zurg as like an antagonist for Buzz Lightyear. Like,
don't they do?
So when they're playing catch,
Zurg
and Buzz are playing catch.
They do the whole "I'm your father" thing. Oh, and you also meet like multiple Buzz Lightyears because you go into a toy store and our Buzz gets to see all the other Buzz and is like, oh my god, is this what I was like? It's like, I'm gonna save the universe. He's like, God, this was me.
You actually just meet the one other Buzz, but the old Buzz.
Yeah, but you see them in the shop though. That's quite crazy to see thousands of yourself. Like,
this was like a massive flex in it for Pixar at the time to be like, do you remember Toy Story 1? Look at this. Look at how far we've come. Like it is actually mad when you think about it. And the story was really, really good. But yeah, there were a lot of people who weren't too keen on it. But let's play the points round again, guys, because there's another budget coming up and you're going to have to, sorry, not another budget, a gross take, worldwide gross take. So the budget for Toy Story 2 was 90 million. What was its worldwide gross?
So it cost 90 million.
It cost 90 million, which is 3 times as much as the original
gross. Worldwide gross. I'm just going to say $1 billion.
Okay. So
what year was it?
This was in no, it wasn't. It was in 2001. I have it written somewhere. I'm pretty sure it was 2001 though.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, 4 years after thingy, but yeah, I think it released it in 2000. Sorry, 2000.
600 mil.
600 mil for Rick.
What did I say first?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 1.2 billion.
You little bitch!
I went less.
Just like
Rick
sprinkling
is the
on
closest.
It
only made 363.2 million. It wasn't as big of a. I mean, it made similar money, but they spent a lot more. And so, yeah, it wasn't as big of a return as Toy Story 1, but yeah, 363. So point for Rikesh.
I guess that does make sense to a certain extent. It's a sequel and your target audience has kind of changed where like at that stage I was old enough that I might not watch Toy Story in the cinema, but I'm young enough to still enjoy it. That was weird.
Yeah.
I feel like sequels just don't do as well as the first in the series. So
strangely, it's the other way around. Usually it does better because if the first one is a massive success, the hype comes
Well,
after
hyped.
the box office, and then it's like, oh, I can't wait for the next one, and then there's a massive following to go to the next one. Usually, you'll find that number 2 is the biggest one, but for some reason, Toy Story 2. I mean, it still made a lot of money.
That's
but,
what I would have
as...
thought would have happened, as well as like it possibly prices being more by that time.
Yeah, things change.
Oh, just an editor's note. Did I say 363? It was 497. So Rick was still closest, but yeah, that was that was a worldwide gross. I mixed up a figure there.
Can I just mention one thing before we kind of move on? The one thing that pops into my head is at the end of Toy Story 2, when they do the blooper reel, their sort of, their joke blooper reel. There's the scene where the prospector's walking with 2 Barbies back to his box, and it's like, oh, really? Wow, and he's showing them interest, like, oh yeah, absolutely. He's like, oh, are we filming? Are we on? Okay, sorry, ladies, I'm really sorry, but please, I'll see you after the shoot. And it's like, oh wow.
So they've actually cut that.
I remember that.
They've actually cut that since, because it's
I'm sure
it's very Epstein, and they cut it. So if you watch it on Disney Plus, it won't be there. Yeah.
Get your VHS out.
I hate that. I hate that Disneyfication, man. It's just so annoying. I'm like, no, that's what it was. Appreciate it.
It's
but
not
I guess that's what it
PC.
means.
I will say this one was produced by 3 women: Karen Robert Jackson, Sarah MacArthur, and Helen Plotkin, which is definitely would have had a hand in the girl power vibe of Jessie in that film.
Well,
which I thought was an interesting thing.
She's a hero, man.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She saves him.
They all have an arc, like it. Yeah, honestly, you forget how good Toy Story 2 is until you watch it, and you're like, man, I think it is better than Toy Story 1, but it's a very, very tough call because Toy Story 1 is so nostalgic.
Yeah, it's the classic.
I just remembered something from Toy Story 1 that really did creep me out. You know his neighbor, Sid?
Yeah.
His neighbor Sid used to fuck up all his toys.
Yeah.
And he had that one, like the Barbie doll head, like the spider mechanical legs.
Yes.
Yeah.
That contributed to my
fear of spiders.
Arachnophobia. For sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that would terrify anyone. It came out.
It was hard to look at.
Sure.
Yeah.
All of those toys were hard to look at.
It was scary. But I think they made I think for your particular fear, it makes sense, Rick, because it's graphically, visually seeing it. But I think they made such a fine balance of it's not the toys that are scary, it's the kid behind them. So that's why it was more like, as a kid, if I treat my toys right, they treat me right, rather than my toys can do this one day. So it played a very fine line.
Into it,
especially when they team up.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And they put a terrifying.
Because we can see everything.
The little undertone joke. Nice. The undertone joke in
terrifying,
number 1.
But that was really good. Point for Fraser just because of that. That was amazing.
If I give you a bit of trivia, can I get a point, right?
So you've asked for it, so no, but go on.
You son of a bitch. In number 1, there's the where Sid's making up his own toys and recreating them. There's the woman with the legs.
I was about to say it, so -1 point for Serhan for jumping the gun.
No,
yeah.
No.
Back down to 1 point. You fucking you ruined
it. That's what you get for brown nosing me.
No, go on, tell us your fact, mate. Tell us your fact. Go on. I was about to say.
Yeah, but it's the Barbie legs with the fishing hook, and she's basically meant to be a hooker.
A hooker.
Oh.
It's so cool. It's so
little
funny.
adult joke.
Tut. Pixar. Imagine what they would be coming out with if they wasn't bought by Disney.
I don't think I'd want to know.
2 hookers.
Or would I?
No.
Sausage pie, wouldn't it? That's all it would be.
Oh my god.
That's the pinnacle, isn't it?
Can you imagine with
it's been done.
Graphics? Okay. So then there was a nice long quiet from Toy Story, and for 10 years we grew up and we went to secondary school and we did whatever else, all the while not realizing that our beloved heroic toys were also growing with us and enduring the painfully emotional damage that we see in Toy Story 3.
Oh.
Now, Toy Story 3, guys, I have to be careful because I might cry. I was writing some facts and I was welling up and I was like, yeah, man, this thing hits me so fucking hard. But before we dive into anything, I'll just give you the facts and you guys can guess the gross.
Okay.
So it was released in 2010, July 19th. It had a budget, bearing in mind Toy Story 2 had 90 million budget. This had a budget of 200 million. In its opening weekend, it only made 110.3 million. What do you reckon the worldwide gross was? Worldwide gross, yeah.
Yeah, worldwide. 300 mil.
So 300 mil for Serhan.
500.
500 for Phrase.
777.
Fucking hell, Rick.
Wow.
I really hope.
I mean, Rikesh is actually the closest because it
Hey,
broke the bill. It made 1.06 billion.
Jesus.
Bang it.
The moment it went overseas, it fucking raked it in. It absolutely killed it. The longest running Toy Story out of the three. Had a different director this time of Lee Unkrich, who again knocked it out the park. This is the first Toy Story that was a Disney Pixar as well, not just a Disney and Pixar. I think this is worth mentioning because before it had, all the others had loads of nominations and stuff, and they had loads of wins as well, but never had won an Oscar. But this one won an Oscar. It was 96 nominations and 60 wins for awards, and it actually won 2 Oscars for Best Animated Feature Film of the Year and Best Achievement in Music written for motion pictures, which was the song We Belong Together by Randy Newman, which I actually don't fucking know.
I was going to say, we haven't even mentioned the whole, you got a friend in
We'll get
me.
to it.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. Don't you worry, because I'm literally going to touch on it now. So let me just bring this fucking Toy Story 3 home. Okay, so not home. We're bringing you into the beginning, and I'm going to drag you through it because Toy Story 3 is probably the best one, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, of how much it hits you. So starting off with another awesome action sequence of the gang in full hero mode. The train scene and everything, and the spaceship with, I don't know if you guys remember this whole opening sequence for Toy Story 3, or if I'm just kind of skipping over it.
I kind of
In the
thought
Wild
it was
West.
in Toy Story 2 for some reason, but no, it makes sense it was in Toy Story 3.
Yeah, Toy Story 2 was the game with Buzz, and Toy Story 3 was this. What it starts off very Wild West, and they're chasing a runaway train, and then the train goes, and it's got all the barrel of monkeys in the train. No, the troll dolls, sorry.
Yeah.
And then the train goes off the bridge, and it's like, oh no! But then Buzz is carrying it up, the whole fucking train, like floating in the sky, and then they fight Potato Head and whatever. It's awesome. It's a really cool sequence. But then we come out of Andy's imagination, and it goes into a handheld recording of Andy playing with our beloved gang, reminding us of the previous movies where we left them. The classic song, You've Got a Friend in Me, holds your hand in the comfort of Andy's youth, our youth, until those Randy Newman lyrics ring out in a cold echo. Our friendship will never die. And then it goes black, and it cuts to the toys trying to phone Andy in the fucking toy chest. And you're going to go through hell when your toys are literally trying to get your attention by hiding your phone and calling it. This whole sequence, I watched this in Pirate, by the way, before it came out, because we all went to see it together. And I knew I was going to cry.
You prepared yourself.
I knew I was going to cry, so I was like, I'm going to watch it, because we were like, 16, 17? I was like, I don't want to go to the cinema and just fucking bawl my eyes out. So I watched it on Pirate, cried. And the moment this happened, instantly, I was like, yeah, I'm so glad I've done this. As soon as we saw it in the cinema, this exact moment made me cry again. It didn't help. I wasn't ready for a round 2. Yep, and then it just gets progressively more and more emotional. So this is kind of for points, guys. And it's a bit more of a scientific question. So, prepare your scientific minds. At what velocity, if measured by actual mass, did Toy Story 3 punch you in the heart?
Bowling ball.
Oh, bowling ball to the heart. Oof,
I'm gonna say a supernova.
That's a big jump. That's a big jump.
A supernova. I'm gonna say a Snorlax on the chest.
Ooh,
Snorlax on the chest.
That is a good one. I like that. Okay,
Can't shift that.
Bring it home. Did you cry?
Yes. I remember crying in Toy Story 3.
I welled up at a very specific point that probably everyone did.
I didn't cry, but
probably the same.
Okay, so points for Serhan and Rikesh for having hearts.
Damn.
I knew you wouldn't have cried, Fraser. You're too fucking cool for Toy Story.
I skipped parts of it as well.
What?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Fuck, mate. I was about to kick off. Oh, shit. Okay, so what were your standout moments, guys? Go on. What were the bits that punched you in the heart?
I don't want to talk about it.
No, you got to. Our listeners can cry with us.
The fire pit, man.
Okay,
Forever
yeah.
and always, the fire pit was the bit where. Do you know what it was? It takes a lot for me to cry. Like I can well up, I can feel the emotion heavily, and like you said, Chaz, like the moments that kind of lead up to it. But by that point, it's not like I was holding back, but I was like, this is too much to process, and I was like, oh my God. And then I started to like reminisce about my toys, and I was like, oh my God, like it's it's an emotional ride. But that was the point where I was like, yep, here we go. There's some
they all hold hands and they're all ready to die.
They accept their fate. They accept it. There's no hero.
Guys, what are you doing to me? Come on.
I know. I told you guys.
Come on, Fraser, talk. We need to mellow out the mood. Get too emotional. Say something, Fraser.
That is the part in it where they just accept this is basically this is where it's going to end, but Disney wouldn't let it end like that.
No,
they would have let their franchise end. No way.
Yeah, not after raking in $1 billion. No, fucking of course not.
Well, yeah.
It's also like the journey to that point. Like the toys, they feel betrayed in a way. They feel lost, and you're trying to figure out as well. Yeah, like because obviously you're watching a movie and you think it's gonna be all right in the end, but it's like how they're sitting there waiting to be incinerated. You think like,
But I think being wrapped up in that moment, you don't think, okay, they're going to be saved because it's a film and it's Disney. But I think the memory that just popped into my head is that at the end, when Andy kind of like gives the toys away, but then it's the look back. And I'm like, okay, this is the end of the film. This is the end of the film now. There's no continuation. They're happy, but it's such a bittersweet ending. And I'm like, oh, mate, Charlie, I can see you struggling with this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that moment for me, Serhan, I've actually written it down because I cry at a lot of films. I'll be honest. I'm a bit of a wet-eyed guy when it comes to watching movies and stuff. I made a noise that I've never made when this moment happened. And this is it. Literally, I went full Goofy movie with a sob of tears in my throat. And let me tell you why. Okay, so this is my moment. Andy pulling Woody away from Bonnie when she goes, oh, it's my Woody doll. And he's like, oh, what's Woody doing in there? And as she goes to take him, he pulls it away. And this is the first time you ever see Andy do anything selfish because it's just a natural instinct that he does not want to give away something he truly loves.
His favorite.
And even talking about it right now, my heart starts going and my eyes start welling up and my whole body's like, you pussy.
You have a heart, Charlie. You have a heart.
Yeah.
There's one thing that kind of
point for Charlie for having a heart. Point for Charlie.
Go on.
The whole was a Buzz like he was in Spanish for like the whole film?
Not the whole film. He was Spanish for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Really?
There's a point where they reset him or something.
Yeah, he's put back to normal before they get to the pits and the fire pits and everything. They like also, did you know that every single Toy Story film is a heist movie? When you think about it, every single one of them has a main heist to sort out their issue. I mean, you can go through them if you want. Toy Story 1, the heist is getting back to Andy before they move house.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then they have to heist out of Sid's house.
With the pizza dude,
Pizza Planet.
Yeah. And then they meet the Martians,
I mean, that isn't technically part of the heist. The heist is what he does with Sid's toys to get out of Sid's house and to teach Sid the lesson and to save Buzz from going up with the rocket. That's the heist.
Mm-hmm.
They all have a role to play and they all like do whatever. In the second one, the heist is saving Woody. Getting
Woody back.
Getting Woody home. In the third one, it's saving the gang because they're in this place and they have to try and escape the playground, which is essentially escaping prison. And yeah, every single one is so far. It's actually a part heist movie. But yeah, just thought that was an interesting fact to throw in there.
It's a good point. I think that really feeds into the enjoyment because heist can be very fun. There's a lot of adventure in it, and because after a while you're not watching toys be toys. You're just watching characters do something. They just happen to be toys in our world, and they go through their own shit. So it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm surprised they never went like TV series with any of it.
They had some shorts. And they did have a couple of like spin-off TV shows, but not directly in that
Pixar animated or anything like that.
No, I think it was just Disney. Because I know Buzz had Disney one. Plus. What was it? Star Command, which was awesome. It was really good. Don't know if you guys ever watched that on Disney. Buzz Lightyear Star Command. It was good. It was good. It had a lot of adult humor in it. It was very wacky at times and that, but it was actually about an actual Buzz Lightyear in space. Saving the universe. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there was many TV things. They got a few shorts on Disney Plus. Anything more to say about Toy Story 3, guys? I mean, there are so many things that you could talk about with Toy Story 3. Because it's incredible.
Could you give it just a short little synopsis? Because I have the idea in my mind, but it's not full. It's not full.
Just an interesting thing. When I got the synopsis for these films, I got them all off Google. But for some reason, Toy Story 3, instead of like, Woody and in brackets Tom Hanks, it had Japanese names. So I'm going to say every single one of them. So here's your synopsis in Japan. With their beloved Andy preparing to leave for college, Woody, Kim Seong-jeon, Buzz Lightyear, Park Il, and Jessie, Ham Soo-jeong, and the rest of the toys find themselves headed for the attic, but mistakenly wind up on the curb with the trash. Woody's quick thinking saves the gang, but all but Woody end up being donated to a daycare center. Unfortunately, the uncontrollable kids do not play nice, so Woody and the gang make plans for a great escape.
Where'd you get this synopsis from?
Google.
Do you know what?
Japan. Google Japan.
Do you know what the journey of all the 3 Toy Stories are? And it sums up in best in a quote from number 1. It's not flying. It's falling in style.
Yeah, with. Yeah. No, you're right. Oh. It actually is. Oh. It's true. Mad. Yeah, the thing is, every one of these films as well, I mean, if we were just going into the animation and storytelling and stuff like that, every single one of them really pushed the boundary. Like, they were considered pioneers in every single film that they did. Like, you compare Toy Story 1 to Toy Story 2 and you're like, fucking wow. But then you compare Toy Story 2 to Toy Story 3 10 years later, they didn't even animate it the same way. They had this software that could just replicate that exact same style and everything. And then they could build so much more on top of it. So yeah, there was just so much more story they could tell, and they did, and yeah, it was just awesome. So let's move on to Toy Story 4, which I'll be honest, guys, my research on Toy Story 4 was not as much as the rest of it because I literally ran out of time. This has been over 10 hours of research, and I have managed to compress it into so far about an hour and a bit. So
I'm just going to say, Toy Story 4. I've not actually seen Toy Story 4.
Oh,
I've actually not seen it. I've seen 1, 2, and 3, but 4.
Yeah, how comes, Rick?
I haven't seen.
Why haven't you got a heart? Have you lost your childhood? Is there no inner child?
I think 3 did enough damage where I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm good.
Completely understandable. Yeah,
but
I'll be honest, it is good. It is good. It got
it.
A lot of backlash. It got quite a lot of backlash for ruining the trilogy, but it's quite a good watch. It's quite a good watch. Got Key and Peele in it.
No, I did watch it. It's the one with Keanu Reeves in it as well.
And it's got Keanu Reeves in it, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Duke Kaboom.
Yeah, I watched it on release, but I have not rewatched it since. It's not a bad film. I don't think it ruins anything, but it's almost like the Star Wars trilogy. It's like, okay, even though there's like 6 or 9 films, like that trilogy is that era and that vibe and that story. And this, I assume, trilogy to be is going to be this era's sort of Toy Story. But yeah, it's not a personal favorite.
I'll be honest, watch it again. because the first time
Okay.
I watched it, I was like, yeah, that wasn't needed because you have Toy Story 3 sitting still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watch it again with quite a clean palette of this is just number 4. It's actually a really good story for Woody. It kind of shits on Buzz a little bit, which is I think why a lot of people didn't particularly like it because Buzz is very underplayed in it. But it's a really beautiful story for Woody where he eventually turns around and kind of says, like, I don't know what to do with my life. Like, I'm actually so lost. And yeah, it's actually really beautiful. It's worth another
what's the release gap between 3 and 4? How many years?
Well, 3 was in
2006.
2010.
2010.
10.
So
9 years.
yeah. So about 9 years. Yeah, 2019. So those are quite a big.
Yeah. So
which is weird because it actually continues from where it left off at number 3. It doesn't do the 10-year jump again, which is weird.
Yeah. No, it was nice because it didn't feel unnecessary. I just didn't feel an urge to rewatch it. But you're right. Watching something at the time versus watching a little bit later on, it could be different because now you're watching it as a quadrilogy, trilogy, or whatever it's called, rather than a trilogy into the extra film. So yeah, I wouldn't mind actually rewatching it. They're all worth it. They're all worth it watching it.
I rewatched it maybe a couple of months ago, and I nearly cried. I mean, it didn't get me anywhere near as hard as Toy Story 2 or 3 or 1, but yeah, no, do you know what? It's actually just a really fun watch. Anyway,
yeah.
So, fun little fact for you: who's seen Parks and Rec?
Yeah, boy.
So you know the girl that's dating Chris Pratt at the beginning and stuff?
April, yeah.
No, sorry, not April. The one who's first dating Chris Pratt and ends up being one of the best friend of Leslie. I can't remember her name from Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Anne.
Her name's Rashida Jones. Anne. That's it. Yeah,
she was in the office. She was in the office.
Yeah, she was.
She dated Jim for a little bit.
Yeah. She actually helped write Toy Story 4. Which was a bit strange. I saw her pop up and I looked into it, and yeah, she actually did help. There was also a couple of other names, but they weren't not worth mentioning here. It got quite a lot of awards, 66 nominations, 56 wins, 1 Oscar for best animated feature film. We'll do another worldwide, the last worldwide gross guessing game. So it had another budget of 200 mil, the same as Toy Story 3. Opening weekend made 120 million. Did it break the billion bank, guys? Let's have a guess.
I'm gonna say 900 mil.
900 mil for Serhan.
I would say 1.1 bill.
1.1.
Little bitch, man. Stop being so like physics about it. Stop trying to figure it out.
Just always like 10% higher or lower than one of you guys.
I'm gonna say 1.152.
I don't think it broke a billion. I'm gonna say it didn't break a billion. I'm gonna say 800 mil.
Right. Well, the closest, very close, actually, very close guess is Fraser, because it did break a billion. It got 1.073 billion. It actually did very well. But nice. I think, again, I was looking through all the reviews and stuff as well, and the critic reviews and the releases and stuff. And a lot of people on opening weekend went in very like, oh, it's going to be shit. It's going to be shit. They went in, they gave initial review as soon as they came out, like, yeah, it wasn't needed. It wasn't the other 3. But then a lot of them went to go watch it again. And they re-reviewed it and they edited their reviews. And all of a sudden, the publicity for Toy Story 4 actually like became massive. And it was like, you need to go and see this film, actually. And it just snowballed a bit. And it made its comeback.
Okay.
Do you have like the critic scores for each one? I know that Toy Story 1 was like 100%.
Yes, I will quickly find them for you. Here we go. Right. So
can I, as you're looking for them, can I just take a backtrack? And you said 56 awards won out of 66 nominations. Did I hear that right?
66 nominations plus the 56 wins. They're 2 separate things. So you're either nominated or you win. So add them together, and that's essentially how many times they were nominated.
Okay, but that's still just under like 50% worth of the win. 56 wins out of like
that's a lot, man.
Pretty much everything they were nominated for.
Wow.
1 in 2 chance they were going to win it.
And going for Toy Story 1.
Yeah, this is the same with most Pixar movies that go up for best animated film of the year. pretty much win every year now. Well, they were winning pretty much every year for a good like 10 years because no one could compete with the technology, no one could compete with the storytelling. But so Toy Story 2, I'm just going to go through the critic reviews on IMDb.
Cool.
So 7.9 out of 10 was for Toy Story 2.
Okay, fair.
Toy Story 3 got a it's telling me to fucking rate it. No. An 8.3.
Okay.
So
yes,
makes sense actually.
Wasn't as as good as I would have thought it would have been. And Toy Story 4, you can only imagine it's going to be a little bit less, but a 7.7. So they're all above 7, and they all dabble around 8.
We can do it in two ways. I can either ask what would be your rating out of 10 for each of them, or we could say I would like to ask what would be your preference from 1 to 4. Which one's your like? I don't know if it's something you're already going to ask.
Serhan.
Yeah.
Who's the fucking host here?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
You don't ask me shit. I ask you. Okay. Right.
I'm so sorry.
Guys, in order.
Don't anger him, Serhan. He's already in an emotional place. Don't anger him.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's true. I'm sorry. I don't mean to push buttons.
No, but actually, for real, that was actually my next thing. I was literally about to say, in order, you own top 3 though, so you're gonna have to drop one. Most of us are probably gonna drop Toy Story 4. In fact, probably all of us will. But top 3, guys. So Fraser, number 3 for you.
2. Toy Story 2.
Okay. Rick.
As my number 1 spot or number 3 spot?
Your number 3 spot.
2.
And for Serhan, we're on a podcast, buddy. Say it. It's okay.
I was just showing it. 2, Charlie.
No, Serhan says
it.
2. Right. Serhan said 2. Okay, so we're all.
Eat
So you guys are all gone for Toy Story 2 as your third pick. I'm actually going to say Toy Story 1 as my third pick.
As your third place pick.
Get out.
Yeah,
Get out.
I love Toy Story 1.
You've
but
already
when
been
you watch them all
cancelled,
again, when you watch them all again, Toy Story 2 is a fucking great film, guys, and it is actually better than Toy Story 1.
I think that
It
was
might
all
be.
fucking amazing.
Toy Story 2, I think, is a better story than Toy Story 1, but Toy Story 1 is just the original, and that's just what it is. That's all it is. It's not necessarily a better film, it's just the original, and I think that's why it is the way it is, because it was the first film I saw in the cinema.
If it was, what film could you live without? Toy Story 1 would be like, I couldn't live without that film. The others, I probably could, but Toy Story 1 means so much to me that no. But as far as like rewatchability, I'd say Toy Story 2 is above Toy Story 1 for me.
Oh,
Let's go to your second places.
I think that's fair.
Fraser,
second place. Toy Story 4.
Oh,
I quite liked it.
Yeah, fair. It's a good film.
Obviously not seen 4, so I'm going to say number 2 spot will be Toy Story 3.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, I would say number 3 as well.
Interesting. Okay. So I would actually say Toy Story 2 for this one. So mine is Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2. And in first place, Fraser.
Toy Story 1.
Toy Story 1. And we're getting a lot of nodding heads. So Rikesh, Toy Story 1. And Serhan, Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm actually super proud of you guys because Toy Story 1 is the one, isn't it? It's the one that sits in your heart forever. So I'm actually really glad you all said Toy Story 1. That's really, really cute. And you pretty much all had the same order except for Fraser, who had Toy Story 4 instead of Toy Story 3. So Toy Story 3 doesn't even make your top 3.
No, do you know what it is, right?
Because you have no heart, that's why.
We've been justification for all his points. Take all his points.
He's only got one.
Scientific brain, let's go.
Toy Story 3. See, the thing is, like, most of the movie is like a big downer, I find.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why it kind of took you guys to the brink.
Well,
and
when you guys, you didn't have to say you guys.
and
you people with your hearts.
Bringing like Toy Story 3 and 4, like trying to weigh them up and compare them to Toy Story 1 and 2. I feel like the situations in those films, the new characters they introduce, and the interactions they have. I think I prefer what happens in like Toy Story 4. To be fair.
I mean, Toy Story 4 is not, it's not one to sleep on. I mean, Bo Peep's story is fucking awesome, and the whole in the shop situation with the little doll with the thing. Yeah, man, it's a great film.
And I think it's probably intentional. Sorry, it's probably intentional, but they kind of bring it back to like a Toy Story 1 vibe where they've got to get back to Bonnie before they leave.
Yeah.
Damn it, Fraser, you're getting in my. Do you know what? I'm gonna change my answer because I don't. I'm not gonna know because I
Give
think
me your
he's
heart,
right.
Serhan.
Number 4. Shut up, you. Number 4 is a balance.
Don't be
of
a Tin Man.
And adventure. I'm not a Tin Man. Okay. No, I'm same films, but I'm gonna change my order, and I think I'm gonna go in order. That my number 1 will be Toy Story 1. My number 2 will be Toy Story 2, and then my number 3 will be Toy Story 3. Because the reality is, I still watched Toy Story 2 when I was young enough to really go into child mode, and number 3 punched me in the heart so hard that I wouldn't watch it as easily. Number 4 is a balance of adventure and heart, and I get Fraser. But I think I'm going to stop it because it's true. When I really think back to number 2, I'm like, there's some great moments in number 2. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry to change it up. Fraser, you did this. You got in my head and you made points, rational, logical points.
Yourself, Fraser.
Damn.
Got in his head. Turned him into a Tin Man.
I love you.
I would take another point. He's only got 1, and you guys both have 3, so it's not even worth it. Not even worth it. Cry, Fraser. I'll make you cry.
Hold a toy and just start pulling it apart. Look at this, Fraser. Look what you're making.
You did this to him.
Don't, Charlie. He'll come get you at night.
Dark.
No, it'll be me crying. Dark.
Charlie's turning into Sid slowly.
Why am I becoming Sid? Yeah, I think I'd have Toy Story 3 as my number 1, Toy Story 2 as my number 2, and Toy Story 1 as my number 3. That was quite hard to say.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1.
You know me, guys. I love an ending. I love a good ending, and Toy Story 3 for me was like fucking sweet spot. Such a good ending.
That's what makes you the bravest person out of all of us, Charlie, because it is the punch in the heart. And you put it at the top. You're like, yeah, I'll go through that emotional stress and pain.
Look, something that can make you feel like that is worth your time. You know what I mean? It's actually made you as a person put yourself in something else about fucking kids' toys. And, you know, you've grown up with it all this way. And it's like, you know, if they'd messed up that ending, that would have really ruined a lot of kids' childhoods. And they didn't. They actually knocked it out of the park and made me cry like a little bit.
It's the ending that caps it off. Are you hearing this, Fraser? Are you hearing all of this emotional
the fact that they waited 10 years or like 9 years near enough before releasing 3, like we all had that same thing. We'd all grown up. We'd all we'd all stopped playing with our toys from when we were kids. We'd like started playing games or consoles or whatever. And I think just because of that, when 3 finally came out, it really just threw you back into the world of Toy Story and reminded you of like your childhood, and it brought all of that stuff back.
And I think
that's a hard feeling to try and compete with, like regardless of the film or the genre. When you have a film that waits 10 years and grows with you and then throws you back into your childhood, it's hard for films to do that. So yeah, it's a special film, man. Special film.
Props to Disney for like doing that as well, because like they could have just churned out another movie and slapped Toy Story on it, but and just to try and draw in more people, but they also made that film for their existing fan base as well.
Yeah.
I think in between Rikesh's and Fraser's point, I think nostalgia will always bring you in the cinema, but a well-written story is what can justify its existence, you know, keep you talking about it just like we are now. And as you guys said, as a trilogy, the ending is just as, well, probably more important than the beginning is. And it connects you to that place, and it gives you a satisfying end for the child and the adult within you. And I think that it's just, that's what makes it a good film. And that's what I'll say. And we shall go. Should we do an ad break?
Ad break. Yeah, we'll have a little ad break.
You've got an ad break.
Have a break. Have an ad break.
This Halloween, No, Buzz! No! No! The toys are back in town. Woody, help! Woody! Woody! Slinky. But not like you remember. What the hell has happened to Buzz? He cut off Slinky's head! He's Sid's favorite toy now. Oh no! God save us all. From the creators of Saw, American Horror Story, and The Shining. I'm gonna send her limbs to infinity and beyond. A toy horror story. Buzz, are you there? Hey, Woody. You've got a friend in you.
Okay, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that ad. There's
Back.
not too much to talk about because now we've spoken about Toy Story 4. We're basically at our end, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? No.
Toy Story 5?
Toy Story
No.
5 has been announced.
What?
Do you want a synopsis of what has been released so far?
No.
Without too
See,
spoilery.
now I'm like, come on. 3 was the ending. I haven't seen
Rikesh,
4 for
watch
emotional
4,
damage
and
reasons.
then you can talk about 5, bro.
Yeah. And let me tell you the synopsis, and you tell me if you're going to come back and watch this fucking film. Obviously, this is very open. There's been a lot of people who have been putting rumors in there. But
yes,
if you dive deep into the internet and you really find what the synopsis is, and there have been little leaks from different producers and stuff, this is the unconfirmed storyline for Toy Story 5. Let's hope it pays off in like 4 or 5 years when it comes out, and this is dead on. It'd be amazing.
Okay.
Andy is having a baby and reunites with Bonnie to ask her for the toys back so Andy's child can have them. Bonnie
Selfish
returns
bastard.
them all except Woody. I mean, that is. Bonnie returns them all except Woody, who went missing on a road trip with her parents when she was little, shortly after Andy gave her his collection. Saddened by the news, Andy returns home with the remaining toys Bonnie has given back to him. The gang take it upon themselves to find Woody and bring him home to be a part of Andy's family once more. That is
got
the
goosebumps.
general synopsis
Actually
of
got
number
goosebumps.
5. Bring
How the hell
Woody
are they
home.
going to do that?
Full on.
They'll find a way. They'll find a way. I'm super excited for it. I love Toy Story. And yeah, as I said, mate, watch Toy Story 4 again, Rick, because just give it that chance.
Watch it tonight.
Yeah.
I actually do want to watch it. It was on my list for a very long time, and I thought it wasn't going to be that great. But all of you seem to have really enjoyed it. So yeah. And I remember you mentioning about Bo Peep's story years ago when I think when 4 first came out. But yeah, I'll watch it tonight. And get an idea for it.
Yeah.
To specify, like for the listeners, I think the biggest advocate of Toy Story has always been Charlie in our group. Like you've always been the person that's been the most vocal about it and very not like we're against it or you're so like a fanboy, but you've always been more likely to be like
every single time we speak to him. It's Toy Story.
Toy Story, yeah.
I want to see my Woody doll.
Woody.
Not a Slinky.
You know what? It makes me think.
Slinky was amazing.
Slinky was
Chaz,
great.
Chaz, do you remember on Saturdays when we used to go to Kingsmead and we used to clean up the car boot sale?
Yeah, yeah.
So I had a Spider-Man toy, right? So Spider-Man was like one of my main first loves as toys. And I had a Spider-Man that I bought as a little kid. I don't know. I think my uncle might have bought it for me. He had magnetic hands and feet. That was amazing. You could stick him to fridges, magnets, walls, whatever. So it was like proper Spider-Man. I grew up. My uncle had a son. I gave it to his son. He used to hang on my cousin, on Erhan's metal bed frame and be like, this is what protects you. I still love that toy, but I'm giving it to my little cousin. It's his time now, and he looked after it. In that car boot sale, keep in mind we're teenagers, I found that exact same Spider-Man in pristine condition. I rebought it for myself. It was in my shed alongside with a KFC Spider-Man toy with suction cups that I bought that came with my Happy Meal from the very first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. That's still in my shed. But the second magnetic Spider-Man toy from that car boot sale, reminiscent of my childhood, is now in my Scottish home above my door, protecting my front door.
When you say pristine, was it like boxed and stuff?
It was no, it was in an air.
It was just good condition. Okay.
It was just really good condition. Yeah, I think like one or two of the magnets have fallen out. One of his arms did break, but I fixed him because that's how I treat my things. And Toy Story taught me that, to look after your shit. But just to kind of put that toy segment in, that's still how it exists in my life, and I still have that belief. Like that hangs on my door just like a freaking evil eye, and I'm like, protect me, bro, and I'll protect you.
That's so cute. But it's honestly, mate, I think most people have something of a toy that still means something so much to them. Like, I mean, my first Woody doll, my mum knocked at the door, got someone to knock at the door, got me to answer the door. Woody sat there, and I was like, "Oh my god, Woody! Oh my god, I've got a Woody doll!"
That's amazing.
I then cut the hoop off the string because my cousin Joe told me, "Yeah, if you cut the hoop off the back of the string, he just talks. You don't need to pull the string anymore. You could just talk to him." So I did. And he kind of wasn't wrong, because then Woody just started talking randomly, which scared the shit out of my dad, because he'd come downstairs in the morning and be like, "I got a snake in my boot. The fuck? Jesus Christ."
That is weird.
Yeah, we all had, I mean, I had every single one of them. I had the Slinky, I had Ham, I had Jesse, I had Woody and Buzz. I don't think I had a boat. I had a Mr. Potato Head, didn't have a Bo Peep. But I think if I was a kid and number 4 came out, I would have got a Bo Peep. What about you guys, actually? Did you have any toys? Like Serhan said about his, like, did you guys have any toys that...
the Bo Peep, like, was she actually a toy, or was she like a porcelain kind of statue?
She was porcelain.
Yeah, porcelain clock stat. I think she was, no, Nightlight, weren't she?
Nightlight. Yeah.
I don't know about that. It was something like my nan, or like a great aunt would have had, which they probably did, of like the farming girls and sheep and meadows and stuff, like very porcelain-y sort of thing. And they get that porcelain in I think it's either 3 or 4. Man, the graphics kicking so well.
3.
Oh, it was in number 4. Wow, I'm like, she looks amazing. She doesn't look plastic. She looks porcelain.
Yeah, she's not in 3 at all.
Was she not in 3? Okay, there was 3 that she wasn't in. I knew it was one of them. Yeah,
3 she wasn't in. I remember one of them. She looked very, very shiny, like overly shiny. Was it 1?
Yeah. The animation was still so the porcelain effect that they had was very shiny back then. But yeah. What toys do you guys have? Yeah.
What about you, Rick? Yeah, toy life.
Ones
that you
toys that I
didn't
still
steal?
have. Oh, they're not many. No, I think like I don't really have any toys that I still have now. I think the one toy that I actually do have.
Oh, he's just for the listeners, he's muted. He's left. He's muted, but he's getting a toy.
So to be fair, this wasn't a toy that I got, but one of you gave to me.
It's blurry.
Oh, it's Iron Man.
It's Iron Man. Who gave that to you?
Iron Man Legends.
I
It's
gave
Fraser.
that
It's
to
a
him.
very special
I'm
Iron
guessing
Man.
Fraser gave it to him.
Yeah. It's the same Iron Man from Marvel vs. Capcom, and I've still got it, boxed up, and I'm never gonna open it.
Dude,
Same Iron
GG
Man.
claps. Wow, Fraser does have a heart.
He does have a heart.
No, he sold
Fraser
it to him.
does have a heart.
He sold
for his heart. That's why he hasn't watched. That's why he hasn't
Give me
watched
your
Toy Story 4 yet.
I think like I've still got a lot of old toys. I used to have a lot of, like, I used to have a shelf of, like, you know, like the big boy toys that you have, like the ones that you kind of just don't really play with because they're a bit too big.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? No,
Like
So I like-
they were taller. Like
like
actual,
the big
I
big
don't know what they
ones.
call
They're
them,
like
like 10-inch
more,
toys or something like that.
Yeah. So they weren't. I always like the small toy that I could put like bit more portable. I've still got all of them boxed in the loft at my mum and dad's, and I've got the not original trilogy, but our trilogy Star Wars with Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul, and it's really cool. They're censored, and their lightsabers turn on, and they choreograph a fight. If you attach all 3 of them. I've got a Godzilla toy, a Terminator toy, an Originals Batman toy that my uncle bought me from Hawaii.
I'm surprised you haven't choked on any of the bits, because they sound like they've all got little bits that you can choke on.
No. These are really big ones, and ones without any parts.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. But my dad used to always get freaked out because if you walked past the Star Wars toys, they would activate automatically because you could turn the sensor on. And I was so deep asleep in here, and it would be like, choo, choo, and he couldn't turn it off. So I came down in the morning. He brought all 3 of them down and just put pillows on them just so he could sleep.
Just suffocated.
He couldn't turn it off. He couldn't mute it. It's the middle of the night. He's come to check on me. They've turned on, and he's like, "Fuck's sake."
He just puts a pillow over him. That's actually really dark. Just like, shut up.
Dude, I remember having Thomas the Tank Engine slippers that if you pushed the slipper, it would it broke and it wouldn't it wouldn't turn off. It was stuck on that he couldn't turn it off because it's within the slipper. So he took the slipper off of my foot, got a hammer, and just smashed it until it shut up, and then put it back on my foot. And I was like, all right, cool.
At least you took off your foot, eh?
It was like the most broken Cinderella moment ever.
My toes. Your dad's got mad Phoebe with the fire alarm vibes.
Yeah. But listen, I told you guys a story in the 90s about the Christmas tree ritual with all my toys. I still love toys to this day. I remember buying Ed Hunter's X-Men toy in my early 20s, and I bought myself one. I'm like, we're gonna play together. I'll give it to you at the end, but we're gonna play together because I love that feeling.
Yeah, agreed, mate. I'm the same. As soon as I have a kid, I am going to be playing toys all the time, and they could be uncognitive. They could literally be baby asleep, and I'll be playing with their toys. Right. So let's round up this podcast, guys. Thank you for hearing out all 4 stories and a possible 5th. The final scores, we might as well get there. In second place, because we have a tie, is Fraser with the 1 point.
Yes.
And half a heart. Serhan and Rikesh both have 3. So I'm going to give you a tiebreaker question.
Oh,
that I haven't planned for. I'm just gonna see what your memory is like, and I'm gonna give you a question of something we've just spoke about. Guys, when was Toy Story 1 released?
1995.
Oh, Rikesh has taken it.
Rikesh got it. Rikesh got it. No.
You said,
damn it.
Serhan said 96.
Down, son.
I was so confident.
Sit down.
I mean, I'll be honest.
You know
I think it came out in 96 in the UK, but no, it officially aired in 95. So,
but you know
that is what I just told you.
I think Charlie's the winner because I think he's gone so deep into this mentally and emotionally and come out the other side.
I feel like you're just saying that because you lost the game and now you're second place.
Yeah, no.
So you're trying to steal the win.
I'm trying to share my heart, Rikesh. Okay, I've got enough.
You have no heart, Serhan.
No, that's Fraser. Rikesh, Fraser, not me. Just because he got an Iron Man from him, he's your best friend now. I gave you the best years of my life, Rikesh.
Did you cut much out of your research? Or
a lot of the Pixar stuff, yeah. So I went down a massive rabbit hole of the before Toy Story 1, and it was honestly, mate, they need to make a film about the creation of Pixar. I don't know why they haven't. Just reading about it and then watching all the videos, it was like 4 hours. I was literally just before Toy Story. Like it's so interesting. It's incredible, guys. It's worth just looking up. It's fantastic.
I think we could do a Pixar one in of itself because it sounds like a rabbit hole where it's like we're talking about Toy Story. I know it's related to Pixar, but we're not talking about Pixar. So I think you've done the right choice of kind of like the editor's room, you know, what kind of goes on the editing floor of, well, this is interesting, but it's not relevant. Otherwise, we're going to sit here for another 4 hours.
Yeah, like the whole Steve Jobs thing, that's a whole other thing. And yeah, I kind of wanted to focus on Toy Story because let's be honest, Toy Story is fucking awesome and it deserves the time that we talk about it. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you guys for taking part and being as interested in it as me, and thank you for being kids with toys and hearts for most of us.
I gave my heart to my toys, okay?
Literally.
Then he gave those toys away.
Yeah.
Go, little ones, go.
Well, thank you guys. This is another Red Jackson podcast. I've been your host, Charlie.
I've been your not host, Rick.
I've been Fraser.
And I have been Serhan. And as always, you have a friend in all of us.
His name is
In all of us, whoever's
Name
listening,
is
you
Red
have a
Jackson.
friend in all of us.
Get your Red Jackson.
He's
Red
inside
Jackson.
of
The
all of
amount
us.
People that have come to me and, oh my God, I like your poddy, man. I enjoy Red Jackson. I'm like, bitch.
I wish we could.
Red Jackson's a real person.
I wish we could
He was
fade
a Yankee
out to "You've Got a Friend in Me" now.
Let's do a Wish version. You got a buddy, yeah.
Royalty-free version, lovely.
I got a buddy.